There's a massive shift happening in the Russia-Ukraine war, and it's centered around a brand new peace deal drafted by Washington and Moscow, a deal that President Donald Trump is pressuring Ukraine to accept within days. But here's the issue. Experts, diplomats, and Kyiv itself say the plan heavily favors Moscow and could reshape the entire balance of power in Europe. So let's break down exactly why this proposal is so controversial and why Ukraine says accepting it would be nothing short of surrender. The first major issue is territory. For years, Ukraine has said it will never accept Russia's control over land seized since 2014 or during the full-scale invasion. But the new proposal flips that position on its head. One of the core clauses explicitly recognizes Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk as territories under Russian control, not just in practice, but with the United States acknowledging it as well. For Kyiv, that's already a deal-breaker. It effectively locks in Russia's battlefield gains and rewrites the map of Ukraine. Then comes the most explosive part of the deal. Ukraine would have to withdraw from the remaining areas of Donetsk it still holds. And those liberated areas, land Ukrainians fought and died for, would become a demilitarized buffer zone recognized internationally as belonging to Russia. Russian troops wouldn't be allowed to enter, but for Kyiv, that's a promise without trust. Ukraine points out that Moscow has broken agreements before, and giving up strategic ground now could give Russia a better launching pad for a future offensive. This is why analysts call that clause the brightest red line. If Ukraine agrees, it would surrender a region that's critical not just militarily, but economically. And for President Zelenskyy, signing off on that would be political suicide. The second reason the deal favors Moscow is the issue of security guarantees, or in this case, the lack of them. Ukraine's entire argument since the start of the war has been simple. Without real guarantees from the West, Russia will always be a threat. That's why Kyiv wanted NATO membership, or at least something that carries weight beyond words. But the new proposal is vague. It says Russia will not invade neighboring countries, and that Ukraine will receive reliable security guarantees. But nothing defines what those guarantees actually are. There's no mention of fast-track NATO protection, no long-term US military support, and no consequences if Russia violates the agreement. At the same time, the plan demands Ukraine block NATO membership forever by writing it into its own constitution, and it requires NATO to amend its own rules to permanently keep Ukraine out. That's a massive win for Russia, which has opposed Ukraine joining the alliance for decades. The plan also limits Ukraine's military size and bans NATO jets from operating in Ukrainian airspace. Critics say that leaves Kyiv weakened while giving Russia exactly what it wanted: a neutral, vulnerable neighbor with fewer defense capabilities. One Ukrainian in Kyiv told reporters that accepting the deal feels like choosing to be or not to be. His message was simple: better to stand your ground now than live under someone else's control later. The third reason Kyiv views the deal as deeply unfair is the precedent it sets for future conflict. One clause offers full amnesty to all parties for what happened during the war and blocks any future claims or complaint. For Ukraine, which has accused Russia of serious wrongdoing since 2022, this is another red line. Kyiv fears that letting everything slide now sends a message that powerful countries can invade, seize land, negotiate a settlement, and walk away without consequences. On top of that, the plan would bring Russia back into the global economy quickly. Sanctions lifted, trade restored, businesses reopened. If Russia violates the deal, sanctions could return, but Ukraine points out that sanctions didn't stop the invasion in the first place. So why would they stop another one later? President Zelenskyy addressed the nation in a somber 10-minute speech. He told Ukrainians they were facing an impossible choice: reject the plan and risk losing US support, or accept it and lose their freedom, dignity, and future. He said he wouldn't sacrifice his country's interests or rewrite Ukraine's constitution to match another nation's demands. As he put it, Ukraine didn't betray itself in 2022, and he won't betray it now. The big question is whether Kyiv can continue resisting the pressure. On one side is Russia, wanting a peace deal that locks in its gains. On the other side is the United States, signaling that the war needs to end soon. And stuck in the middle is Ukraine, still fighting, still enduring missile strikes, and now heading into another brutal winter. Time will tell whether Ukraine stands firm or whether these global power shifts force its hand. But for now, one thing is clear. The peace plan may stop the fighting on paper, but it comes with consequences that could shape Europe for decades. Comment what you think about this. If you like the video, then don't forget to subscribe. It really motivates us to create helpful videos.